So there's not a lot of sports going on, but I did have a great time the other day watching UFC, and some great fights they're putting on. These guys are really, really doing a great job during the pandemic. If you don't know about it, Dana White, who is the prime minister of the UFC, whatever, that's a cool name for him. Anyway, Dana White is the big head honcho there, and Dana White has actually just purchased something for the UFC that he's calling Fight Island. And this is going to be an island where they're going to go and put on all their fights, which is actually really cool. I don't know how long they're going to be using this island, but my understanding is they'll probably use it a lot. I'm guessing they're building like some type of TV facility there where they'll be able to go, and I'm assuming it's going to be off the coast so that it won't be fundamentally required to follow any U.S. guidelines. I'm assuming. Right now, every time they put on a fight, they have to deal with a lot. So I'm assuming that once they do this, and I'm also assuming that if they do this, this will cut down a lot of costs. So everyone will live on the island. They'll have the doctors come in on the island. I'm assuming this is how this will happen. These are total assumptions on my part. I really have no idea for sure that this is how this is going to work. These are just my assumptions. I will say this. The UFC's house is on fire right now. And I absolutely love the way Dana White is handling it. I really do. If you watch the recent post-fight interview with Dana White, he's out there, he's talking about the fights, and they're asking him about, well, let me catch you up first, if you don't know what's going on. So John Jones, who is the light heavyweight champion of the world, and probably the greatest UFC fighter of all time, recently got upset about the amount of money that he's making and the amount of money that he was trying to put together when he was trying to put together a super fight to fight whose name I just forgot, the heavyweight champion. So he was going to go up in weight. He wanted more money for the fight, and Dana White said, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't think you're going to draw. I don't think it's going to be a big draw. I don't think you're going to make a ton of money. So no, you can't have more money. And right now there is no live gate, so we're making less money than we would have made normally. And by the time this fight comes out, we're not sure if there'll be a live gate. There'll be other sports going on. We won't own the conversation for sports, so pay-per-view numbers may go down by then. We don't know what's going to happen, so I can't give anybody a raise in money right now. A completely reasonable thing to say for Dana White. Now, Dana White and the UFC have put themselves in a bad situation here. They created this because they underpay their fighters. They truly do. When you look at boxing, when you look at even the WWE, you look at some of these other programs that are on that make their money, the majority of their money through pay-per-view, they are sharing more money with their fighters than Dana White is. And the UFC is an incredibly profitable company. Incredibly profitable. So the fighters whose careers are short go out there, risk their lives basically to fight, and don't get paid what they think is enough money. This is a problem going forward. I don't think it's a problem right now because Dana White came out and handled this in a great way. To me, this was the best way to handle it. Currently, John Jones is upset about money. Jorge Masvidal is upset about money. And Conor McGregor comes out of nowhere and says, I'm going to retire. And the word automatically is, that must be about money. So what I think happened is they're all trying to leverage together and say, hey, if none of us will fight, if all the big names pull out, Dana will have to pay. He'll have to pay more. And Dana White just said, I'm not doing it. You're all under contract. You all just signed new contracts. Honor your contracts or piss off. And right now he holds all the cards. You're under contract. So all of these guys just signed contracts. I guess Masvidal just signed a contract 3 months ago. Jones just signed one last year. McGregor's under contract for like 3 more fights. So none of them have any negotiation power at all. But they're all trying to pull some type of negotiating power thing with Dana White. And I don't think it's going to work at all, kids. I don't think it's going to work at all. Now, if you guys have a different idea of what you think is going to happen with the UFC, leave your comments below. I'd love to hear them. But for me, I feel like Dana White came out and as an employer, and I've been an employer. And I've been an employer when my staff tried to do a takeover as well. When my staff got together and came to me, well, we're not going to do X, Y, or Z until you give us this one thing we're asking for. And I did the same thing. Piss off. I'll replace all of you. So you can all leave. Now, the difference was I didn't have anybody under contract. But I created an environment where my employees made a really good living. So to ask me for more than they were already getting, I felt was unreasonable. I also felt that it put me in a perfect position to be able to say, piss off, because where are you going to make more money? Like, how are you going to make more money? How are you all going to leave and all go find jobs to make more money? One or two of you might, but you're not all going to leave here and find better jobs, because a lot of you make a lot of really good money here. So I think this is going to be a problem for Dana White in the future. I think what's going to happen is guys are going to be a little more cautious when they sign their fights. Masvidal just signed a 7-fight deal. I think guys are going to go and say, I want to do a 3-fight deal. I want to do a 2-fight deal. I want to do a 3-fight deal. And then I think you're going to see somebody look at this and say, there's an opening here. I think I've shared this before, but Warren Buffett, who's probably the most popular, most well-known investor in the world, has this great saying that I love to use, and it basically is something like this. It's if you want to invest in a business, if you want to create a business, if you want to put any type of your thought, if any type of your capital, as far as your cash goes, into a business, you want to do it in a business that has a moat around it. And what that basically means is that if you don't know what a moat is, they dig a hole around a castle and they fill it with water. That's a moat. And what that basically means is you want to be able to open up a business that has such a barrier of entry around you, whether it costs too much to get in, or you can't get the fighters, or whatever the barrier of entry is. You want to be able to have such a huge barrier of entry that real competition can't possibly get in and hurt you. Most major sports companies have that barrier of entry. UFC does not. In my opinion, UFC does not have a barrier of entry that is equal or on the same level as some of these other companies. NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, no one's going to come in and mess with them. The UFC is vulnerable. Now, they have a huge market share, but if another company were to come in, start to create their own really, really good fighters, be able to take a few of the UFC fighters as they get out of their contracts, a John Jones, a Conor McGregor, the UFC could be in tremendous trouble. The UFC could be in big, big trouble, especially if this other promotion was willing to pay more. So because Dana White has left himself vulnerable without the moat around his business, I think the future of the UFC could be in question. Now, when I say future, I don't mean right now. Nothing's going to change right now, because we're in the middle of a pandemic, and there are no live gates, and that's what's helping them. But because this has been exposed, people now know how to get across the moat, and it could end very, very badly for Dana White and the UFC. Well, that's it for today's podcast. I'm so glad you guys listened. I'm so glad you guys watched. If you like anything that you saw today, please don't be afraid to leave a comment below. Click like button, stuff like that. Hopefully, I've engaged your lives and made it a little bit better for today. Along the way, I do invite you guys to watch the show again throughout the week. I'm going to do an NBA update a little bit later on this week as I get more information. And hopefully I can do a Major League Baseball update as well to keep you guys abreast as what's going on there, because God knows we all need to have more sports so we have more to talk about. All right, guys, everybody stay safe out there. Don't forget to wear your masks. Stay socially distant away from each other. If you're out protesting, just try to stay away from everybody, out of the middle, and stay out of the middle of all the people that are doing all the bad stuff. And I'll see you guys next time around. Thanks.